2020 hit, we eventually, well, myself and eventually the band for a short period of time, my fiance and I started streaming on Twitch, and I found out a lot of people who lurked what I was doing and didn't really talk a lot. They were the ones who would come into the stream and be talkative. And like for people that I was meeting on other social medias like Twitter, when I was like really blowing up and we were getting hundreds of people in every night that we streamed, like this was a new way for them to hear our old music, which was new music to them, and the people who heard our music and we weren't really getting to do a lot of that, well, now the streams were a new home to like hang out with us and build a better bond and like a new relationship. And I think that really made a difference, especially coming back into the scene where sometimes I can go to some shows, not really feel like I super belong in certain places, but then other times you'll find that there were people that you knew for years before everything fell apart, and you're like, I feel like we're family in a more serious sense than it used to be, because like we went through things, we have things we could talk about that, you know, it's like just very different now.
Absolutely.
But aside from streaming, got into content creation for YouTube, TikTok, and other different things.
And you guys were kind of like maintaining all this too, like when the pandemic happened and that hit. So that we're talking about like a whole year and a half where, you know, content was pretty much, you had all the time.
That was the only thing.
Yeah, that was the only thing.
One of the most literal thing for the band as far as content right now is that we built a studio in his house, and I have some stuff we could all do on our own really, but like most of the gear is really his for like our full band projects. But we did put out one cover so far. It was like a Mario 64 Bowser song, and it was cool, but when I went back to like figure out what we're gonna do on the next one, we were like, let's be less serious and pull out the green screen, become Tim and Eric. And one thing that, so we have a couple other video game songs, but the one that like I really need to do more work on right now is the Mortal Kombat one, which we didn't announce, but we're just kind of walking into these kind of things.
I mean, hopefully by the time this comes out,
hopefully
that'll be out.
July. See, every time we bring it up, I push it back.
Yeah.
We'll see you at Munostock 2027. That's it.
Yeah. So I'll green screen us out. If we have cosplay, like he's Sub-Zero in the music video.
That's great.
We're putting ourselves in the video games, pixelating it, fighting each other, playing the actual music. And that's something that I think will really do well when we can actually get at least one of them out. I think
like the cover's really good instrumentally, but then it's like you guys are putting out this like wacky tobacco like kind of like imagery, and it's how could you not like it? I mean, anything, laugh,
anything to get people to just watch it, please.
Yeah.
Just pay attention. Just pay attention for more than like 5 seconds.
I mean, it's like I mean, I've been here. It's now that social media is actually changing right now. Like people are buying Twitter and all that stuff like that. Yeah. So it's like now I feel like it's getting a lot more competitive. And just like how do you feel about having to like post? I mean, we're talking like 10 times a day, just to even like gain some kind of traction on social media because those algorithms are so like tight.
It sucks.
It does.
As far as
I don't have the freaking time for it. Like we've been doing this for so long with Bloodlines, and we're just like.
And we're still going nowhere, people.
10 times, I was like, I can't do 10 times a day.
I think the thing is that when I told you 10 times a day, that was when I was pretty much clickbaiting the crap out of people on Twitter when I was trying to figure out how to do Twitter.
Like generally,
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, it's different with every social media, and also we're like all recovering from being traumatized. So like we're still in that like trying to just get our lives together. Like I mentioned off camera earlier, like we're all either having new living situations or new jobs, and aside from all the projects we want to do right now, we're like just trying to take the rest of the year to just like get stability back into our lives. And on top of that, like I mean, you should just try to be doing what you want to be doing, and then it won't feel like work. Yeah. Because I was always trying to push to do certain different projects and try to put out X amount of things, but like quantity don't mean nothing if you don't like what you're doing. People will pick up on whether you're passionate about stuff. I knew that from streaming, because whenever I would play video games that I thought maybe someone would want me to do, and I knew that I didn't want to do it, like you could tell when someone's passionate or not. Like they're just like less happy about it or whatever, like focusing on the numbers.
So you can sense it, like in like the in the posts and stuff like that. You can sense the tone.
Yeah, like
people are just like, well, I'm just gonna post just to post, and if you feel so defeated by just like what social media has become now.
Yeah, it's something that you just got to keep in the back of your mind all the time. Essentially, that like you need content. So you're not trying to constantly like come up with ideas. It's just something that you're doing in the course of doing your regular stuff. You just need to be aware, like, this could be content.
Yeah.
Let's take a picture. Let's take a video. Let's like do this. Just even if it's short little stuff, that's mostly what people are gonna look for anyway. They're not really gonna pay attention to really long videos or posts or whatever.
I imagine it's a little different for bands too, because for us as like we're kind of like digital media content creators or whatever, so we're not in the music scene like that, but we do report on music and stuff like that. But for bands, I can imagine it's just a little more different, because as entertainers, having to be out there constantly. But I think like in this like age of like social media right now, it's definitely making no one knows better how competitive it is in entertainment right now than you guys, than in the younger generation. So what have been your victories and discouraging times during Muck's career?
I think the most obvious one that John might not be thinking about is the fact that it took 7 other drummers to even have a drummer that stays in the band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That took 4 years.
That took a long time.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Because I know every band has their like issues with like switching a lot of members out. So you guys had the drummer thing.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest other problems that maybe people don't think about nowadays, because we're pretty much integrated into this community, is that we didn't really play any specific kind of music that like fit only within a scene. So like we try to play with like the punk kids or the metal kids or the rock or the pop or whatever, literally anybody. And we would often sometimes just feel like we didn't belong in certain spots until like we kind of created spaces for everyone to belong. And that's kind of how Stock got that like unwritten rule where like we need to have a band represent their genre. So like we don't have a whole metal festival or a whole pop punk festival.
That's it, kids. If you really, really, really want it to happen, put every single band as metalcore. You'll have the best time of your life.
Yep. They are on Long Island, so that makes sense.
7.5 hours of redundant sound.
Redundancy.
But I guess I want to know from you guys. I mean, so if newcomers trying to get a better idea, like of your sound and technique, what genre, like subgenre, like would you consider yourselves?
I just said it. Metalcore.
We're not.
He's right though.
We're not at all. So, okay. There's
I'd say punk
like
and metal.
Progressive punk.
Progressive punk might be the most.
I like that.
Like, it's kind of confusing when you hear it because you don't understand it until you listen to it as to why we might say that. Because it's like, we're not progressive rock or even metal, but like, if you were expecting to hear punk music, like that energy,
it's not what you're gonna get.
You're gonna get like a rock or punk band with the chops of a metal band that isn't trying to be any of those things. So
we're bringing that metal in with punk. So you're kind of working on that, just seeing where it goes and
metal, rock.
And we're gonna incorporate more dance elements now.
You are. Okay.
Yeah, some electronic stuff.
Electronic.
We're bringing electronic into Muckrakers right now.
So I don't know if you know them, but one of my bigger influences that I want to bring in is Pendulum, and they're like a drum and bass band.
Okay.
Like really, really cool. It's like a band. It's like imagine techno, but like it was a band instead. It's confusing until you hear it. Then it's really good. They've toured with like Linkin Park and stuff like that.
Okay.
And he's also been like into I always loved like electronic music, but he's got some bands that kind of want to go in that direction.
That's actually all we would listen to on tour. Like we would just listen to electronic music all night.
I've actually when we drive, I'll listen to all 3 Pendulum albums on loop. Well, not on loop, but through.
And when we're driving, it's always at max volume. It is. There's like no
at night.
When Kyler's driving,
sleeping on the road.
When
it's punk every day.
Well, everyone's awake until I have to drive.
Kyler's always the one that's left with everybody sleeping in the van at the same exact time.
Because we drive right after the show at
Right.
night to beat all the traffic. It's just the
That's
New
the
York
smart thing to do.
vibe.
It's the New York vibe. If you know it, you're like, no, we don't want to deal with traffic. We're gonna drive at night.
Well, I'm interested to know what Muckrakers sounds like with some like EDM vibes in there. So.
Yeah.
When can we expect that? What
When
do you
we
think?
figure it out.
Yeah,
It works with punk rock.
You
like
kind of fell for
2024.
But it's happening.
I'm gonna do the
Well-
Shannon
It's
Sharp.
happening.
Well, for what it is worth, we actually started to write electronic music and like video game music over the past year because we got Pro Tools and we just started to like do things while we couldn't do things as a band, and wrote a lot of music. So I think that kind of experience will lend well to when we want to write for the band in that kind of genre.
Gotcha.
Oh yes, it's my turn.
Yeah, what's your question?
We've been jumping and just having a good conversation throughout everything. So all right. So I mean, let's see here. Having played in New Jersey before, what thoughts can you share about the similarities and differences between? Exactly. You know where I'm going with this. Yes, we are going to expand the rivalry right now.
No,
So
I don't think there's no rivalry at all. But there are definitely differences like in between
Yes,
states
between-
and like the scenes. You know,
between New York City
New York
and
City and
New
New
Jersey
Jersey.
metal for you guys personally.
I love both, by the way. I'm just gonna.
So I think the
Just
short answer is
yeah.
we don't really play with a lot of metal bands actually in New Jersey.
That's true.
Surprisingly, yeah, we don't really know. But there's actually not that many bands left in Jersey. That's something we
there's
realize.
there's a caveat to that.
Well, it's just like,
They have
metal
all
scene, not
ventured
the
and
metal
stayed at
scene, but,
Dingbats,
maybe,
that's what it
like,
is.
the rock scene, like punk rock scene or rock scene in general, like in both places.
So yeah, we've played a lot with like really like rock and ska bands and more experimental stuff than just like metal bands out there. And I think what the difference is between that and New York City is like it's a lot easier to find metal bands in New York City than it is in New Jersey, even though like I think New Jersey is where like Cognitive is from and we're friends and they just got on the Metal Blade, but
That's right.
I haven't played with them since I was in Reluctant Morum, so
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard of forever.
it's been 6 years
Man,
since.
that's a wild, reluctant mortal. Oh man, children, do I have a story for you on another podcast?
All right.
That's
But-
legendary right
We've
there.
had people almost get killed at those shows.
We're
That's-
talking about the pits.
yeah, this is.
Someone stabbed themselves.
Wow.
themselves.
Okay, so we're just
That's
like,
why
yeah.
I said this is another podcast. Dark side.
God, this is such a good
Dark side.
band.
It was
I
at-
love this man so much.
It was in a Mexican food. It was at a Mexican restaurant during a quinceañera of all places.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody just like.
I'm not listening to that satanic ass music. Anyway, speaking of satanic things,
But I do want to know. I mean, but like to end that, I actually want to know what you guys think of like. I mean, how do you feel about both scenes can benefit from each other? Like, how do you feel your audience does in each place? Like your audience
in New Jersey,
and then as opposed to like here.
Go ahead.
In New Jersey, it's
Johnny, go.
it can be tough to get people to go too far away from their house because it's similar to really any place, Long Island or the city, where like once you start getting a certain distance from them, it's hard to get them to cross certain borders. And like in New Jersey, it's like north, central, and south.
Yup.
It's a divide apparently.
Some people don't want to go to them.
Yeah, some people don't want to go to the other territory. Sometimes
Get
people
out.
from
I
New
didn't know
Jersey
that
don't
there's
want
like
to. I mean, they'll come to shows in Manhattan. It's harder to get them to cross the city and to come into the boroughs.
When we played with Keep Flying, that was in Jersey, and funnily enough, most of our crowd was from New York because it was literally a shorter drive to go to there than it was to Brooklyn or anywhere in the boroughs.
So New Yorkers are more willing to go to
Yeah.
New Jersey than New Jersey's like willing to come out here.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens both ways, but also, you would hope to just like have people where you're going,
Interesting.
yeah, you just want an audience at that point. I mean, that's very much how to sum it up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where they're from.
Yeah, it's
If
not like
they're
we're
there to
expecting
watch.
people from like Suffolk to go to Virginia.
We'll see you at the Queers. 9 hours away.
That's right, guys. 5
Oh,
hours.
10 by that point.
5
10
hours.
hours. So writing music, who are your musical heroes? Like, what is your process up to this point? And up to this point, have there been songs that you've retired during the course of your growth as a band?
Oh, there has been songs we retired.
Yeah, like I kind of just like, we're not the same band that we used to be. Like the songs that we were performing then, like you guys have definitely, obviously you've grown. So like were there any songs that you've retired?
Our first song.
She Loves Me. She's not there anymore.
So,
Go
wait.
ahead, what is the first song?
Is that
first
the name of the
song-
song? She Loves Me, She's Not There
There's
Anymore?
a song called She Loves Me.
Yeah, it's not there
I
anymore.
love that
So that
Like
song.
Fall Out Boy type of thing. She Loves Me, She's Not There Anymore.
That
like that's the
song-
whole name of the song.
Great name,
But it's
actually.
not.
I should make a song.
So She Loves Me's not in our set list really anymore because there's it's like whatever. We have Blind, which sometimes make a resurgence. One song, In Vain, we don't play that anymore, but that's like a really cool, funky, like death rock song. That song I retired unspokenly because I wrote that song because I hated metalcore at the time. And it was
Metalcore! That's today's secret word.
I honestly gotta say, I loved metalcore
Then-
from like 2013 to like the tail end of like
2013.
2017.
it was
From 2013 to 2017, I was all about it, and then like I kind of just like it wasn't changing. It was kind of like a Twilight Zone.
Told you
and,
7.5
I
hours
still
of
appreciate
redundant
it.
music. That's, you could get so many people.
I
So much
appreciate it
money.
still. I still do, but I'm just like, some of the like one of my some of my favorite metalcore bands. I'm just like, yeah, this is new shit, and I'm just like, man. It just sounds,
most metalcore bands at this
I feel like I'm
point,
back there again.
most metalcore is just kind of like they either go red state rock or they become more progressive or something to the point that like no one's paying attention. Or they stay it, but
I feel like Meshuggah is just like that's it. They're the Metallica of metalcore, like or gent or whatever
Yeah.
what they're calling it.
Now with that new
Yeah.
record they
Gent.
put out, Insufferable,
Gent.
or whatever it's called. I forgot the name of the record.
Probably insufferable. Or
That was not a good record.
fun
sorry.
story.
some really violent title.
No, it just wasn't. No, it was just like, yeah, here's the past record, here's the new record. Yeah, no, it just didn't work. It was just no. You were gonna say something.
Oh, yeah, funny story. I went to a show 2 days ago with a bunch of touring bands only, really, in Queens. And one band that played, they were local. They were hard to pronounce their name. There was a Hispanic band. But one of their songs, literally verbatim, was our first song that we wrote. The same chord progression. And it was played exactly the same.
Son of a gun.
And I was just like, well, gosh.
It's like the worst
Infringement.
talent show ever. You just like somebody has your exact routine, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
we're the Muckrakers.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you in Virginia.
As far as influences, I know that Black Flag was kind of that in the beginning. Nowadays, Black Flag, NoFX, AJJ, Nowadays, I'm like Linkin Park, Pendulum, other bands. How about yourself?
Royal Blood.
Royal Blood. Now,
Yeah, Kyler.
trying to
Royal
write,
Blood.
trying to write some stuff as of like yesterday. That's kind of more like Royal Blood, but
I feel like my newest thing is like Dance Gavin Dance. Like,
Really?
for like the
freaking-
past like 4 years.
Rest in
like
peace, Tim.
yeah, it's been like quite a few years. Yeah, I mean, yeah. R.I.P. to their bassist.
Yeah.
That's,
Yep.
like I was like, what?
That was devastating.
Yeah.
He was such a good guy.
Yeah, and they just released like they released like Synergy like a few weeks ago, like the video for it.
They also do their own thing out in Cali, Swan Fest.
Swan Fest,
Right,
they have their
right.
own festival. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, which apparently sells out every bloody year. So
Wow.
it's like,
Yeah.
kudos to all of them and that whole.
I mean, it's definitely that pretty boy
process.
metalcore scene for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful bastards.
For some reason,
Beautiful
that's like
metalcore guys.
that's like my new thing where I'm like, I just love it. I don't know. It's like so noodly, and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it has like this like it has the ability to be mainstream, but also not at the same time. It's like it is always on the border of both, and I kind of like that, and that's why like I don't know. My original inspiration was always Linkin Park. Like that was my main thing. Although it's not really in our music, but I'm just like I love Linkin Park.
Quarter Life
The
Crisis
influences
is
are-
kind of like giving up.
A little bit, yeah, I guess so. That was the song that I'm just like, I'm gonna play a drop D, and I'm gonna see what happens. And that's what
Yeah.
happened. So
Fair
What about
enough.
you, John?
But I guess to say, I mean, so what general messages do you guys convey through your music?
I don't know.
Oh.
We were upset.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're upset. Things are not great.
Say no to metalcore.
I
Say
think-
no to metalcore. Please make a song that says "Say
Let
no to
me-
metalcore"
We
and just
should.
make it really punk rock.
So, funny thing is, you asked us what our genre was, but I think we're like pretty much angry emo music, really.
Angry
A
emo.
lot of our
Angry
music is
emo?
about like relationships until
Yeah.
recently,
We're
and then about
scratching off
maturing.
progressive punk, and that's it. We're just angry emo now.
Angry emo.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I
if,
like it.
yeah.
So, in the course of this angry emo, who have you really entrusted to track and mix and master your music, and what has been your experience working with, with them in the studio?
Originally, we recorded with the Schwam from New Jersey for our first record.
Columbus, New Jersey.
Yeah, and then the last two recordings, we were at Voodoo Studios in Port Jeff, and they actually have some connections to the Swan guys, friggin' Dance Gavin Gans kind of crew.
Yeah, they like
Cool.
record the original singer a lot or whatever.
They got Hellstone, Stole Us until they broke up. Yeah.
So you guys have a really good connect with your mixing and mastering guys. Or,
Yeah, I mean, they know people.
Well, and not only that, but it's not the fact that they
Maybe
know,
not too my own horn
it's not the
there.
fact that they know people. It's the fact that they do the thing really well. Everything is
Yeah.
analog. The drum room makes John's drumming sounds like otherworldly.
They do have a phenomenal live room.
Is he so
It's
good?
very, very good. Yeah.
Mhm.
and how was that experience for you? Just like, well, how,
Super easy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about anything. He typically tracks every single thing he needs to do in like 4 hours.
Show
Yeah.
off.
Like one or two takes for John every time.
It takes me 4 days. How about that? Yeah, 4 days.
Yeah.
So what are you guys working on right now? And are you in the process of getting ready to release anything?
I mean, we're working on covers.
No, but yeah, mainly covers.
Yeah. So we were,
Covers.
yeah, what everyone said already, but we're working on making cover videos. We're working on writing new music. We're working on pretty much all the things that we mentioned with the business with Stock.
Yeah.
Getting Stock just happened again after 2 years. The party rental's a new thing. We need to probably get more people to help us with stuff because it's getting exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yo, my brother's getting us so much work. He's like, yeah, we have an event this weekend. Then we have one the next day.
Yeah.
And then the next day. And then guess what? There's two in the same day. And I'm like, bro, what the we are only 4 people.
Yeah, we need to
Like,
expand
we're
our
3,
bandwidth.
but then my brother is like in there too, so we're only 4. We're 4 people.
Yeah, and it's getting to the
doing
point
this.
where festivals are even asking us to help them
Yeah.
with their festivals, which I don't know if we're going to do any of that yet, but
Yeah.
we're getting
Inquiries, yeah.
we're even getting emails. Like,
Inquiries.
I don't know if it's kosher to say, but like
Yeah.
we've got people sending in resumes to work with us.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I was surprised that happened today.
Well,
I
speaking
think
of,
we had this lined up.
and speaking about like expanding your bandwidth and sounding, it sounds like you guys are like you need some management or whatever. But speaking of management, how insightful? I mean, you guys have been working with number 37, Tim Martinez. How insightful has it been linking up with him, who's been well known for his appearance on TV during like the music, like focused height of like MTV and VH1, as your band manager? And what sort of things do you wish you knew then that you know now, like as far as like credited to his experience in the music industry and the advice he's been able to give you guys to be able to help make the Muck Tree grow?
So Tim's been really great. He's really given us a lot of insight on the next steps, how to get to the next level. He gives us good insight into like expectations of where we need to be in order to work with whether it be radio or getting into media and publications, or working with publicists, or building a team to help us do everything that we need to do. So just like basically really giving us the insight that we need to know of what we are trying to do and the steps that we need to take to get to that.
It's the night that we decided we were going to do stuff with him and confirmed him as like our manager. We ended up going to like a party and like it was like for, might have been either Revolver or something else, but
Yeah,
it was
for
funny, like,
Revolver, yeah.
we got introduced to some people that were like higher up there, and it was funny how like you could see the gatekeeping unlock a little bit. Yeah. So it was interesting because once you get represented, some people actually start to pay attention when they might be like, I know too many people, I don't care anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one on the side. And one thing, before any of this happened, like the past couple of years, Tim was pushing us doing content, and I don't think any of us understood what that was until like I really dived into streaming. So like he had his head like ahead of the curve when it came to like what we were thinking about, because we were just stopping touring constantly.
Yeah.
We were gonna not play for like 5 months.
Yeah, I can
for
imagine
the
like
EP
he's
release show.
Yeah, and like he knows what these people in this kind of like this like area in the music industry. He knows what they're looking for, so he's just kind of giving you that direction of where to go. I can imagine, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's like it's hard to still figure out like who will like work with, you know, as far as like maybe there's a label like or a different part of a team that you want. Like that's something that we've been kind of like figuring out with him, because I know that before I worked with him, like I was just threw myself at it like every label as if like I didn't know what I was doing, and you don't know what they're looking for, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's very true.
And then you find out, you know, or you don't.
But so I mean, and as a band, like what challenges are you prepared or willing to take on in the music industry? Like, are there any barriers like that you're looking to break to set yourselves apart musically and creatively? How do you feel about trends in metal music versus trying to be your genuine selves?
I think that one of the biggest challenges is still like tapping into being a consistent content creator while also being a band. Like becoming, like, I will preface this by saying that there is no right or wrong way of blowing up, because like my neighbors in AMH, like Adam and the Metalhawks, they blew up on TikTok from just doing silly like stuff like
Acoustic
covers
like,
with like funny things going on, and like they got millions of followers. But then there'll be other bands that like maybe they just did a different method that didn't involve content creation at all, and like some weird DIY thing where like I don't know who they are, but everyone else knows who they are in that scene. So I think as far as like creating new music, I mean that's a challenge to always like keep up with our own expectations, because all of our songs are always progressively different. Like our newer EP, like every song is different from each other. And like Without You, when we started putting out music that was like clean guitar and like all this progressive tap slide stuff, once that was well received, I knew that we could pretty much do anything, and hopefully it would be well received.
Yeah, and like we don't really follow trends. I don't think that's really what we want to do, because like I mean that's the whole thing, is we're trying to do something different and be a unique thing, regardless of where we're aiming that toward, whether or not we're still doing sort of punk stuff or if we're going more toward dance and electronic type things. Whatever it is, we want to be unique in that space.
I think, one thing, and I'll let you say whatever you're going to say, but before I forget my train of thought, one thing I think that really separates us, again, from like other people is that like we do have kind of like a slow little empire being built between the festival and everything else. And like I was getting hit up by a bunch of people recently. Maybe it's just because, you know, people want to get on things, but also
Get on the bus.
One of my friends was saying that like the last time he came out to Munostock, he was so inspired to realize that like what you can do to make a special day, for instance, for your community. That like he said that they started doing altruistic things like doing food drives with their bands or doing other things within that. So like I think just doing different stuff that other people aren't doing on the business side of it, that is also passion driven. Because, like, we wanted to tour, so what did we do? We booked touring bands, and then they would end up helping us or other things.
And that's what I really love about the Muckrakers, because I see you guys online, and it's like, it's always a guarantee that, you know, there's going to be an event that you guys are always going to put together yourselves. you don't wait for anybody. You just really just take it by the reins and just
with a solid draw too, because people can
exactly.
just do it and then not have anybody show up.
Yeah, because I was there at the Doyle show when you guys were opening, and you guys had a really good crowd.
Yeah.
One of the things that when I started getting a little bit fed up with myself in depression was like I want to like really just take the reins back in my life. And one thing that I want to do, this is not really like top secret or anything, is that eventually I want to like be able to be one of those companies that brings in a national act for the town, you know, like book that big band, whether it's like Ice Nine Kills or CKY if they want to come back or something like that, because you know, like Revolution's gone, but like there are so many people that could still like bring in like excitement, you know.
Regardless of the space. I mean, we're seeing that now with AMH, Amityville Music Hall. It's just, as soon as Revolution closed down, they were getting groups that don't even belong in that place, because it's not a big place as compared to like, you know, Revolution. It's rather, you know, small in comparison. But when I tell you it gets jumpy in there, woo-wee, man, that is scary. It gets scary in there.
I got knocked out there.
Who hasn't?
It's like AMH. You walk in at the door, you get knocked out. I mean, Jesus.
Oh my god.
Do you have anything you want to say about any of that?
No.
Man,
Honestly,
Kyler's giving the bass player permission.
I kind of, I had
No one cares about the bass player.
That's right.
Everybody loves Shannon.
I guess so. I'm like,
Especially when he wears those shirts.
I know.
Yeah, I got his name tattooed on my arm.
That's my last name. Well, I don't even know where to start. There's a lot of things that I was like thinking about saying, but
Look
I mean,
at my
to be
biceps.
honest, what you were saying that we don't wait for anybody to do anything. The reason why we even made Muyo Stock in the first place, which I kind of forget sometimes, is that we didn't even know how to book shows. So I'm like, if we don't know how to book show, if don't I get booked on a show, let's just make a show for us to play.
We only had
I
a
feel like
summer
that's
anyway.
I think that's a great route to go when you're kind of just like, all right, let's just, I have no idea how to do this. Let's just see how, let's do it the way we know how.
Right.
But I guess to wrap up that conversation, I mean, how would you like your music and dynamic to be perceived in the music industry as a local band and to the world in your genre?
I think what it is, at the end of the day, I feel like for a band at least, like, I don't know, I feel like with like a band, everyone's always just like, there's like one standout person, but I think that all three of us are standout people.
That's what I was going to say. I was just going to say, like, I kind of hope that we have like a Blink-182 type perception where like each member is their own thing, and we also have the reputation for just like kind of being silly and stupid and not really taking it too seriously.
So my thing is, which one is the one chasing aliens in this group? Since it's Blink-182. Exactly.
I think someone whispered my name.
Wrong lights. We should have went green.
I know, right?
No, we would have lost his head in the whole thing. It was like a floating head.
We just do Mars attacks for a little bit.
I think one of the things that could probably be of note is that if we can become successful without even really committing to like any specific genre, that probably means a lot, because a lot of people are just trying to be a thing that they're not really. I mean, they can be, but like maybe they're like just chasing a trend. You know what I mean?
Right.
It sounds like it's already happening, considering the success, the successes you've had as a band, as promoters, as like the Twitch streaming. You have touched every single thing that you guys have touched has turned to gold at this point, and it's not even because of it's not, you're not put in a genre because you want to be there. You just want to be yourselves. You just want to play music for the sake of playing music.
And I ask about trends because I've had so many people like kind of talk to me about like the whole social media process, and they're like, oh, if it's trending, kind of follow that because that's what people are going to click on and stuff like that. So I appreciate that you guys are not following the trends, because I'm tired. I'm kind of frankly tired of looking at trends, and so I really hope that you stay true to that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't agree more.
We've done some trendy stuff, but like,
yeah, social media stuff,
Yeah,
like content-wise, posting stuff, we might sort of follow it, or we'll follow like a broader trend of just like people like covers. How could we do that, you know?
But you're not losing yourselves in those trends. You're all following it, but you're not losing yourselves.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that we would prefer to be trendsetters than trend followers.
Perfect. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. Like no matter what. You know, everybody wants to be unique in their own rights, not only as individuals but as groups. But then you end up losing yourself in this process. Obviously, that's not, you know, seen here. You're all successfully managing to stay yourselves, and still continuing to do the things you need to do. So, hopefully, things continue on, and you continue to grow, and we'll be at stock in 2027.
I might attend my first stock now that I've really like gotten to know you guys for sure. Like I've always wanted to. We were like all the way out here, so
Right.
Yeah.
we don't drive.
Yes.
But
You know,
Good thing it's
every
not in
time-
New Jersey.
Every time we book stock, it is right next to a train station.
Yeah, this
that's
one,
good to know.
This one's
That's
by
good to
the Huntington Station.
Okay.
We're down the street from the Paramount.
Nice.
Okay, there
Yeah, and the best part
I
about
have
this
to
one
check it out.
coming out is that it's all metalcore. So remember,
Yeah.
7 hours straight.
We got
Abundant metalcore. That's
we
it.
got Killswitch Engage.
Oh my God.
Alexandria.
August Burns Red.
Alisana.
But talking about Huntington though, like Huntington, Long Island. You guys
Too.
are from Long Island, and so what's it like coming from and being a part of the Long Island like punk metal scene, like Long Island metal?
It's a
the
monster
metal
of
scene
its
has
own.
it seems like an animal of its own. So like, you know, what's it like being a part of that?
I mean, it like before we started touring, it just felt regular because we're all from here. So once we got out there more and started seeing what it was like in other areas, you know, they don't really have this big built-in scene. They don't have a ton of people who are like looking to come out to shows or looking for music. So it was definitely eye-opening that we have a really good scene and we're definitely in a good spot.
Yeah, I think the thing that sort of separates the New York, the city from Long Island is that I don't feel like a lot of high-profile people often, like, what's the word? I don't think that they frequent Long Island quite as much as the city, but there's just something going on in every genre out there.
Yeah.
And-
Well, the thing is, like, Long Island doesn't really. They don't have we have mid-tier shows, and now they're kind of like going extinct with the fact that Revolution is not around. But like, all we got now is like, the Paramount, which has mid-tier shows. But like, other than that, we got. The UBS Arena, which is now it's like right on the border of like Jamaica and like somewhere Nassau County.
It sounds like it sounds like Long Island itself is combating the lack of venues with this it feels almost exclusive. You know what I mean? Like it's inclusive to a point where everybody. It's like, okay, we only have these 3 places, but we're always going to be at those 3 places.
It doesn't even matter what kind of bands are playing. Like we just had the 422 show, and that was we ran with a bunch of like ska bands and like funk bands and crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and
there's a welcome variety there as to just another part of the city or another part of the country where it's just like, oh, these guys are playing. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna make that. So I definitely see that and I definitely understand that, and that's pretty sweet because there needs to be a lot more of that.
There's just a lot of crazy talent that is in New York overall, in Long Island, probably especially.
I feel that way too because I've seen. I mean, well, not only that Warped Tour was always there, like every year before it died out, but I feel like there has been a lot more success stories coming out of like Long Island and like metal and stuff like that.
And like Moontooth just blew up.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're from John's hometown.
Well, they're from Massapequa.
Oh, they're from Mass. I thought they were Amityville.
No,
Shit.
it's close.
Isn't Suffocation from
they're from
but
there.
they've been around for 30 years. So it's like Moontooth just blew up. So it's like right there, which is great.
Yeah.
So they're
Pretty quickly too. So
yep.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well,
But I do want to get into. I mean, so we do always usually have a topic of discussion because I definitely want to get your.
Yes, we are. So we're at the final topic of discussion.
As I sit down.
As because Marissa turned the camera on because of budget cuts and
Budget cuts.
Thank you. That's it. That's
the
always
new name of the podcast.
Yeah,
Budget cuts.
It really should be since I say it for every podcast.
Wait, the Muckrakers and the budget cuts.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. I like that. Our first song is called Sail. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so Marissa, you take it away.
So now that we've got like, a group of musicians here, I want to pick your brains a little. And I want to get the perspective of musicians. So music publications are known for frequently dishing out like a 10 out of 10 album reviews lately. Just for things like when when you really like take a step back and you look at it, it's like it's not really like a 10 out of 10, like maybe like a 7 out of 10 or like an 8 out of 10, but like we've been seeing so much of like
I feel like something's
this
been
is
blown up.
spectacular.
Yeah, something's been blown up for no
Yeah.
reason. It's legendary, and it's just like
so I mean
sugar.
yeah, and when I read through like these, I was reading actually through lovely comments and something like that, and people how the comment sections are, and I said,
God, I love those.
this is somebody's like, well, this is Payola Journalism that's in this. And I had no idea what the hell Payola Journalism was, so I'm like doing my little Google thing, and I found out that this is actually an illegal practice in the music industry.
Wow.
So I mean, just to get a little backstory, right, about like what payola is, basically, by definition in the media, is any like media exposure that's secretly paid for is considered payola. Although it's most common in the music industry, so like radio stations can be legally paid to play music, but that has to be made clear during the broadcast. But if it's not,
So it's
that's
like a
illegal.
paid ad without being called
Right,
in.
right. So actually, a perfect example of that was Sony Music Entertainment back in 2005, and they had to They went toe to toe with the New York State Attorney General, I guess, and
That was Elliot Spitzer.
Spitzer.
Good old Spitzy boy.
And they had to, they basically had to settle, resulting in Sony settling because Sony did this. So this was an illegal thing that they did. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, another example would be like, we had, recently an incident had happened where, an album review for like a really big name, a big name music group, the review was removed from like a really credible like heavy music media site, and it was replaced immediately with like a very favorable, pristine, and it was a little crude. The first review was a little crude. I'll admit to that, but
Absolutely
it was
crude.
but it was honest. And that's something that I think a lot of people appreciate. So it was replaced immediately. And so, like, what are your thoughts on this kind of like practice in media and how it pertains to like profit amongst like music industry professionals? And because if they're not giving the best publicity to their artists, like eventually they might be like go from their jobs or something, like that might affect them like professionally. So how do you feel about that?
I have an opening question back. So
I will turn your lightning round around on yourselves.
So I watched a video on IGN from someone who used to do like video game reviews, and ultimately their question, or like their kind of basically they do the same thing in video games where they're basically paying to give 10 out of 10s or whatever.
Yeah.
And her sentiment was, yeah, they're going to do it, but who's watching the video game reviews anyway? The people who want to buy the video game
are going to buy it regardless.
Otherwise, it's not convincing anyone, even if it is a really good game. So, like, how much does this affect things in the music industry comparison-wise?
How much does it affect sales is more like it.
Because our sales, I mean, it's confusing.
So how would-
There's
How
a lot
would,
more channels to this than anything, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's about sales. That's it.
Shannon, you were going to say something?
Oh no, I feel like my off topic. Because I don't know. I almost wanted to go into the controversial topic of like Machine Gun Kelly.
Right.
Everything that he has there is not. A lot of it's more so like to piss everybody off. Like that is all of his.
But that works.
That's the
it
entertainment
works
business.
so well.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, but like, let's just say, like, if you guys were like, god level musicians
Mm-hmm.
up there, and your publicist is really working for you, doing a great job and stuff like that. But you start noticing that, okay, and I'm saying like this is a good thing for you guys. You're getting like these great album reviews like that. Let's say something like that happened to you, where somebody put an honest review and said, well, Muckrakers' new album is like, it's good, but not as good as like it was before. This album was like a 7 out of 10. You know what I mean? And then it just immediately got replaced.
I'm sorry. I just really feel like putting this out there. Just pretend that you're Metallica and you did the album with Lou Reed. And everybody's like, it's Metallica, it's gonna be amazing, and it's complete dog shit. So that's I think that's what she's trying to say in a nutshell.
But like, so somebody, and then that review, that crude review, kind of like honest, crude review, was replaced with something just like, no, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And people kind of saw that change. Like, how would you feel about that?
Kind of
I don't feel like pay to win is really gonna make it. It's not gonna be what I want ultimately.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather someone tell me they don't like it. When we did our last release, we did put ourselves out there to criticism to a couple of publications, and some people just did not want to work with it because they're like, the song's intro was too long. And I was like, all right.
That's a silly point.
But that was almost 90% of the responses. And some people are just like, this is too much of this. And then the next person will say it's the exact opposite of that, and that's why they're not working with it. And I would rather be shut down because someone just doesn't care than I would rather someone lie about loving it, I think ultimately I'd rather just be honest.
Yeah. So I think Payola really sucks. I would definitely rather people have their own opinions, be truthful about their opinions. It'll keep people honest, and bands, record labels, producers, if nobody's going to keep them honest, they can just keep pumping out whatever they want, and possibly people aren't going to listen to it, and then they'll get turned off, and then they'll be forced to actually do anything differently. But, without people keeping them honest and putting it out there that, like, this music sucks, or, like, this band didn't live up to their name, what's really gonna keep them in line? And, like, so Payola, Payola was big back in the 80s, and then I believe they actually cracked down on it, late 80s, early 90s, and that was one of the big reasons why we had such diverse music in the 90s, why we had so many artists that came up, some one-hit wonders, and a lot of artists, they broke through in a variety of ways, and since then, things have either been rolled back or the industry has figured out different ways to work out payola.
Everybody always finds a loophole, whether